years, our profession had some new standards that came out that address the way this particular opinion is presented. It does kind of highlights a few things. It highlights that the financial statements are a shared responsibility between management and board and us as auditors. And it also kind of points out if there's any particular matters that are new to the financial statements, anything that's changed, they're addressed, they're highlighted here in the opinion as well under the other matters section. It just kind of points out that there were some new standards that became effective this year that were implemented by the Park District, which changed the presentation of some of the financial statements, and I'll point that out briefly as I go ahead. After the opinion, beginning on page 3 is your management discussion and analysis section. And this is just kind of a financial narrative, an overview of the financial year for the Park District. It does contain some comparative information between this year and last year. So it's a good resource if you want a quick snapshot of the financial year for the Park District. The financial statements begin on page 11, and I'm just going to highlight a few things. There are two sets of financial statements within the report. The first two statements are what's called the government-wide financial statements. These are on a full accrual basis. What that means is fixed assets are put on a balance sheet, or in this case, a statement of net position, which is your balance sheet. Long-term debt is on your balance sheet, and any activity of those is reflected here and not in the statement of activities or your income statement. The other thing I wanted to point out on these statements that's a little different from what you've seen in the past is on pages 12 and 13, the statement of activities. You'll see near the bottom, you'll see a restatement of beginning of the year net position, beginning of the year net assets. And the reason for that restatement goes back to what I had mentioned in the opinion, where there's some new standards that were adopted this year. And as part of those standards, one of the things that changed was the way you count for deferred bond issuance costs. So the costs involved in issuing bonds, previously the standards said you put those on the balance sheet and amortize those over the life of the bonds. But with these new standards, they say that those should be expensed in the year that the bonds are issued, and anything that you had as a deferred bond issue cost at the time of adoption of those standards, you would remove from your financial statements. So that's the reason for the restatement. So it's not an indication of something that was presented incorrectly in the prior year. It's just the restatement is for the adoption of the new standards. So I kind of wanted to point that out. And the other statement I wanted to flip to was on pages 17 and 18. This is your statement of revenues, expenditures, changes in fund balance for governmental funds. It's your income statement under the modified accrual basis account, which is closer to a cash basis in terms of if you purchase fixed assets, they're recognized as expenses. Payments on debt are recognized as expenses as opposed to being on the balance sheet. And when you look at it lists of major funds, and if you kind of near the bottom of the page, you'll see the net changes in fund balance. This is your bottom line for each of the funds, each of the major funds, and then some of the smaller funds are consolidated into one column near the right. And most of the funds showed a small positive bottom line during the year. For the year, general fund had a positive bottom line of $130,000. Rec fund had a positive bottom line of $195,000. So most of the funds show a small positive bottom line. The capital projects fund had a small negative loss, but really a capital project fund is something you don't really necessarily look at it on a year-to-year basis. It's more over a lifetime of a bond issue. Proceeds get put in there and they get spent over time. So on an individual year, it's going to fluctuate from income to a loss, just depending on that particular year's activity, and it's not that necessarily an indication. It's usually a planning usage. So overall, the funds showed, like I said, the funds showed positive bottom lines, and your fund balances at the end of the year are typically in the range of about 50 to 75% of your annual expenditures, which is about where fund balances typically are intended to be. That's kind of the range. It's a range where you see most of our districts. I mean, that's kind of because a lot of your revenues come in at property taxes are obviously a significant revenue source. They come in twice a year, so you need maybe a little cushion there for the in-between times. Just to wrap up the audit in general, we were able to come in and get our work done in a sufficient manner. Everything was ready for us when we got there. We just made a few small adjustments, not really significant, and I just wanted to compliment Maureen and her staff for having everything ready for us.
Thank you. Questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Lily Cash Special Recreation Association tonight. She is going to give an overview of the LCSRA budget for the upcoming year. Everything else you can see in your board packet. We're very proud that Healthy Minds, Healthy Bodies launched on Veterans Day. We're very proud to be bringing that program to our community. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to go to our partnership website and look at the information on that program. The tool report for the year was also in there. That was for this past summer. Those are just the highlights from the rec report. And with that, I will welcome Jill up here. She did have a handout for everybody that she was going to replace and use that now for your reference as she did.
Good to see everybody. First, I wanted to say thank you for your support in our upcoming fundraiser this weekend. We appreciate it. We do use those funds for our scholarship program. We do give out about $10,000 a year to help children and adults with disabilities attend our program. So thank you very much for your guys' support. It does mean a lot to us. We are in our 8th year of our agreement together. Our program has been growing. There have been changes and it's been great. We always look forward to our once a month advisory board meetings with Bolingbrook and Plainfield. Those have been going well. The budget is similar as it has been in the past. I did separate out for you the $304,000. That is the ADA levy for capital improvements for Bolingbrook Park District, so you can subtract that out of your total. A couple places that I wanted to highlight that you will see that are going up a little bit significant this year. Vehicle fuel. We are planning to add another vehicle to our fleet so that we can get our participants to and from programs and provide more services for people. So that has jumped about 70%. We do budget on the high side for fuel as we cannot control or really predict what that will be throughout the year as it does change. The other big one that you will see is wages with more programs running, higher numbers of participation, and day camp increasing. That's where we're seeing our expense. One of the biggest ones that we're seeing too is an inclusion. If you guys want to look at the slides that you were given on the second page, inclusion, we're seeing the growth. Wage projections for the end of the year for Bolingbrook are looking to be 23% over, and for Plainfield we're looking at 42% over projected budgeted funds for that. Also on that slide you can see I've kind of separated out individual inclusion placements, both in Bolingbrook and Plainfield and combined. So if you look at 2011, 153 was our year-end individual placements for both districts. 2012 went up to 199 for the entire year. At the end of summer, we were already at 194. Inclusion is exploding. It is a service, and it does cost money. So that's where we're seeing a lot of our increase with wages. We are planning for it, talking about it at the SRA Advisory Board to make a plan to help cover those expenses in the future. So those are the two big areas of difference that you'll see from last year. A couple quick highlights from this year. We had a great launch party with our Lily Cash SRA name this year. So that was a fun event. Families loved it, staff loved it. Thank you guys for your support for that as well. Our own separate brochure, our website will be live at the end of the month where you can put in lilycashsra.org and I'll go right to the page. So we're very excited about that. Sherry has been one of our supervisors, was chosen to coach, be the head athletics coach for Special Olympics. So she'll be in New Jersey for Team USA, being the head coach to represent us. Day camps, we're increasing again. This next year we have a need for it. We're seeing the most need increase right now at our teen age group, our 13 to 21-year-olds. So we'll be addressing that by splitting it into 2 camps so that we can accommodate more participants. We're continuing to evolve our adapted sports program because it's such a smaller population for the adapted sports. We are partnering with other neighboring SRAs so that all of our SRAs can be on a team together so that we can field the team. So we just started working on that this year and we're looking forward to watching that grow as well. The other exciting thing for us, the small building in Bolingbrook where we are currently housed, will be closing end of May next year. The special rec offices will be moved to one of the main recreation facilities at the Anne Arena Community Center. We'll have a little better setup for our offices. They're definitely a little bit more accessible than where we're at now, which is great. And it'll be more visible in a busy community center where our families can also find us. So we're very excited about that. Looking forward to doing a little bit more programming there as well. So those are my basic updates. Does anybody have any questions for us?
It's not a question, it's just a comment. Thank you for everything that you guys are doing. I mean, I work in special education, so I know, I've been seeing what you guys have been doing. I really think it's good.
We love what we do. We learn more from our participants than we could ever give them. So my staff come to work every day, they love it, and it's very energizing. So thank you again for your support, we do appreciate it.
Thank you for coming out, and we have had a staff discussion. We do have some plans to assist your organization to expanding services in the park district.
It's a great relationship between Board and Plainfield to, make sure that our needs are met for our special needs population. So thank you, we appreciate the commitment.
Thank you.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Communications and marketing department?
The big thing for tonight will be the announcement of our splash pad water usage contest. The only reason this came up was because we were a big review of our water bills. When we saw the numbers that came out of the splash pad, it kind of prompted us further look at how many gallons we were actually using. The total water usage for the 2013 season, just at the splash pad, was 2,768,348 gallons of treated unused water. The winner of the contest, we did on Facebook, Stephanie Martinez Zentmeyer of Joliet, who believe it or not came within 69,000 gallons. Our answer was 2,709,000. Joe Staub, I've not been able to determine his hometown yet, but we will be in touch with each of these people. Funny second, it was 2,945,000. Amy Claiborne of Plainfield was third, and even 2,400,000. You'll also see in your packet of the one sheet is all the staff reports. In regard to the new dog park, we are planning on having a naming contest for that. That will be coming in the next several months. So I think that's about all I have.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. Board report?
We've had 2 FOIA requests for the month of October. Each one was over $400 to the district, approximately. We sent a letter to someone who was speaking earlier that we didn't pick up his yet, but we're gonna get back to his message. And we also included 2 response letters from the Attorney General's office. One stating we did not violate the Meetings Act for the May 28th meeting, and the other was a non-topic request that we denied some documents.
Any other reports? Everything is.
No, I have one I have to respond to tomorrow still.
All right, sounds good, thanks, appreciate it. Commissioner Bidwell?
I passed out a sheet for some action that took place during the legal session during the General Assembly, the 2 minor issues that IPRA or IEP brought to our attention. About the legislators report.
Thank you, appreciate it. Action items? Letter A. Do I have a motion to approve resolution 2013-14? This resolution recognizes the Healthy Minds Multi-Body Program.
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Here none, roll call.
Stein?
Yay.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Letter B. I have a motion to open the public hearing for the ordinance 2013-03, which is the tax levy for the 2013. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call.
Stein?
Yay.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carries. And that's at what, 6:47?
Item C. This portion of the meeting pertains to the public hearing and comments for the ordinance 2013-03, which is the tax levy for the 2013. Any member of the public would like to make comments? Please keep your comments for the 2013 tax levy.
Could we please have a short presentation on the tax levy so that everyone could understand how it's playing out for us as taxpayers?
You want to do a short? Just can you give that brief?
Sure. Our 2013
basically it's estimates. Our estimate for our, total EAV is $2,228,661,865. We're estimating a 5% reduction in the district's total EAV, which would be consistent with, the reductions that we've seen the last few years. Our EAV in, sorry, so it's a 5% reduction in our EAV estimating from 2012 tax year. We're estimating $12 million in new growth in our EAV, which is significantly lower than it has been, which reflects a reduction in the overall growth within the district, which it has been reflecting that the last few tax years. One of the things that we are doing this year with our tax levy is our intention is to keep the total tax amount for our capped funds the same as last fiscal year, last tax year. So last tax year, we levied $4,298,231 in our special purpose funds. So that excludes the special recreation and bond fund. So we're keeping that amount the same. And that would be, and then we add to that the special recreation levy, which is $540,000. And then our bonds, which is $865,197, which gives us a total proposed levy of $5,703,428.72. How that would impact a taxpayer, the average homeowner in Plainfield, we're estimating that average fair market value of a home is $250,000. And looking at our 2012 Park District taxes on that $250,000 home, that would be $188.15 in taxes based on our 2012 tax rate of 0.2433. And then looking at 2013, on that same $250,000 value home, estimating a 5% deflated property value. Again, that's just an estimate and it will vary between property to property. We were looking at $186.21 on that $250,000 home that will depreciate 5%. So that would be a decrease in the property taxes of that $250,000 home of $8.66, which reflects a 4.6%. I'm sorry, it's an $8.66 increase, which is a 4.6% increase if the property value did not decline. If the property value did decline, like we're estimating, that would actually be a $1.94 decrease, which is a 1.04% decrease in the property taxes paid just to the Park District.
Any other member of the public would like to make comments?
More questions? So,
We made that presentation last month, so, and we have a kind of full agenda, so,
It's a public hearing.
yes, I know, it's a public hearing.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short
Go
then.
ahead.
Okay, so last month, I just want to confirm, the board then discussed the decision to keep the
No,
tax.
we made a public hearing last month. We presented the tax levy last month.
There's a presentation for the board and the public last month.
Did the board vote on the decision to keep that tax where it's at? Was that she described something, she said something that said, we decided to, and I don't think you're repeating it if you don't, Maureen, I don't want to say it incorrectly, but that to keep the taxes at the same rate, right? Is that how I understood that?
Yes.
We haven't voted yet on the.
I apologize, I misspoke. It was just the direction after I made the presentation at the October meeting was that they wanted it.
Yeah, we haven't voted on this yet, because we're tonight.
So I just want to make sure I understood that. Does that mean the growth that is in the district, that small amount, that 12 million, is not being captured in the tax rate?
Maureen, can you answer that?
I would actually have to do a number to calculate that, but basically what it means is that we're not, the estimated maximum levy that we could obtain in tax dollars on our special revenue funds would be $4,326,000. Okay, so that's the maximum we might get.
Okay.
So we're keeping that amount the same as last year, which was $4,298,000. So we're not maximizing that amount of the levy for the special revenue funds.
Okay, and is that what has been happening in the past years, that when I haven't been maximizing those amounts? Is that pretty typical?
No, I believe in the past, we have, maxed out our tax levy.
And part of the reason we maxed out the tax levy in the past is because our tax rate is so low in Plainfield, and we really need those taxes to run the park district? Or maybe that's not your question to answer, maybe that's their question to answer. It seems like there was a change. That's what I'm and I know you haven't voted yet. I'm trying to understand what that change is. I chose not to maximize the tax rate at this point for a reason.
We're gonna operate off the same levy dollar amount as our goal was last year. In the past, from my recollection, the board would raise it as much as they could, which in this case would be an extra $100,000 and some odd $1,000, or you need that exact number so we have it on the record.
It was actually $28,000 and change.
$28,000 there.
So once you leave that on the table and don't take it this year, can you never recapture that again? Or could you get that in the future if you need it?
Capture that.
You can never recapture it again. So the board is choosing, by voting for this, to not capture that amount of money that could help serve the community.
They're choosing not to take additional money from residents out of property taxes.
I mean, I love not paying property taxes, that's good. But after knowing the rate that we have in this district, I'm concerned that this might not be a good decision.
All right, thank you. Anybody else from the public would like to make a comment on the 2013 tax levy? All right, hearing none. Do we have a motion to close the public hearing for the ordinance 2013-03, which is the 2013 tax levy ordinance? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Roll call.
Steines?
Yay.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Do I have a motion to approve ordinance 2013-03, which is the 2013 tax levy ordinance? Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
You have a second.
Discussion. Hearing none, roll call please.
Steines?
Yay.
Ludeman?
No.
Newton?
No.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do I have a motion to remove resolution 2013-13? It's a resolution authorizing the adoption of the investment policy from the table. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Roll call please.
Steines?
Yay.
Ludeman? Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Item G, do I have a motion to amend resolution 2013-13, which is the resolution authorizing the adoption of the investment policy? Do I have a motion?
Make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll make it.
Discussion. Hearing none, roll call please.
Steines?
Yay.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item H, do I have a motion to approve the amendment resolution 2013-13, which is the resolution authorizing the adoption of the investment policy? Do I have a motion?
Make motion.
Do we have a second?
A second.
Discussion. Hearing none, roll call.
Steines?
Yay.
Ludeman?
Yes.
Newton?
Yes.
Solosky?
Yes.
Furtado?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Do I have item I? Do I have a motion to award a bid for the two more Toro mowers? Do I have a motion to award the bid for two Toro mowers?
Two Toro mowers, yes. You have a motion.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Discussion.
Question. Gene, how was the selection made on the model that we're looking at?
Well, these mowers, to begin with, these are 15-foot mowers, just so everybody understands what you're paying for here. These mowers do not require a truck or a trailer to transport them to where they're going. You hop on it, you drive it. They have headlights, they have turn signals. You eliminate the need for two trucks and two trailers. The decision to buy these, we're looking
I'm just curious why we chose that particular model.
For example, I have two Jacobson right now the same size. The hydraulic motors, each blade has its own hydraulic motor. These motors are right around $700 a piece. And we go through 3 or 4 of these a season. That's the Jacobson. With the Toro, you've got belts. You may pay $110 for a belt, but you're not paying the $2,100 or $3,000 for the hydraulic motors. Also, the Toros are the best. The Jake and the Toro, same price. I did contact George O'Hara with Burris Equipment. He said, look, I'm gonna be honest with you, we'll sell you the 2 Jakes at the same price. I feel I'm getting a much better product. Another thing Toro has, and this kind of stuff excites me. The Toro has an automatic reverse on the fan, where after a certain amount of hours, the fan will stop. The fan for blade heater will stop, reverse itself, and blow all the debris and dust and so forth. It's one of a kind. Nobody else has that. You don't have that overheating issue because the blades stop, they reverse, and it blows all that out. You don't have I think they might call it idiot-proof. You know, the fella doesn't have to go down and brush off his radiator. Just, you know, it does have a computer where the Jakes have no computers. To take care of hours and so on and so on. Basically, I feel we're gonna save money on hydraulic motors and parts by getting this mower, and it is the best. I had a one-time opportunity here to get the best or second best for the same price. I took the best.
How about longevity?
Longevity, we've talked to a few people, Mistwood and a few other people. They just keep going and going, you know. We'll find out. My Jakes went for, one of my Jakes right now, when I did 13 years old, is pretty much inoperable. The other Jake, same age, still going, but we're robbing parts off of this one to keep that going. You know, Toro is, I have never come to one of these meetings and asked for a Toro until tonight. That's because for the same price, because of the economy and slow sales probably, I have the opportunity to get the best instead of second best.
Thanks.
You know?
Just for the record.
And the money was there, money was there. We are actually still a bit under budget with the equipment budget.
Just for the record, are you getting any bird sticker?
Pardon?
Are you getting any bird sticker with this Taurus?
You can Bears tickets.
If they offered it to me, I would refuse.
Thank you, Christian.
Yeah, I wanted to reiterate that too, in regards to these rumors going around that we're purchasing Toros for Bears tickets, you know, and, yeah, okay.
All right,
I just want to make sure it's
I
clear.
asked for a hat, they wouldn't even give me a hat. I'm not even getting a hat.
All right, any other discussions? Here, none, roll call, please.
Stiding.
Yeah.
Ludeman.
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Solosky.
Yes.
Furtado.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Item J, seeking a motion to revise the comprehensive revenue policy. Do I have a motion?
Let's see, the motion.
Do I have a second? Discussion.
The 50% markup, which we had, or we have currently, was that just an arbitrary figure, or was it based on something?
You know what, I don't know, it's been in place since I have been in the district,
Okay.
which is 13, 14 years now. But when I survey other districts, there are some that are still at 50%, but there are some who are at as low as $5.
Well, I know impact fees have to be justified, so I was just curious whether the
I have
the
no,
rate.
I have no idea where that justification
Okay.
came from.
Thanks.
It was informed.
I was just curious with the reduction, about